I buried wood in my raised beds, and the results, well, they were honestly pretty shocking. What if I told you the secret to thriving plants isn't expensive fertilizers or fancy tools, but something you've probably been throwing away? I buried wood in my raised beds, and what happened next completely transformed my garden. The results, lush greens, strong roots, and healthier soil, were beyond anything I had expected. It may sound unconventional, but this one simple shift in how I built my garden beds has turned them into long-term powerhouses of fertility and resilience. Every gardener dreams of raised beds that overflow with life, thick, healthy tomato vines, leafy greens that never wilt, and soil so rich you can smell its vitality. For years my garden didn't look anything like that. I struggled with soil that dried out too quickly, beds that demanded constant watering, and plants that grew unevenly despite my best efforts. Then came the change. When you see my garden now, beds brimming with vibrant growth, it's easy to wonder, what's the secret? The answer lies hidden beneath the soil layers of buried wood. That hidden foundation is the reason my raised beds perform the way they do today. The practice of burying wood in raised beds is rooted in a method called Hugelkultur, a term that simply means mound culture. At its core, it's the idea of using decaying wood as the foundation for soil building. Over time, the buried logs and branches break down, slowly releasing nutrients into the soil above. But Hugelkultur is more than slow-release nutrition. Wood acts like a sponge underground. As it decomposes, it absorbs water during rainfall or irrigation, holding onto it and releasing it back into the soil as plants need it. That means less frequent watering, especially during the hottest months. The decomposition process also encourages microbial activity. Soil microbes thrive on organic matter, and their presence boosts nutrient cycling. Instead of relying heavily on store-bought fertilizers, the buried wood creates a living system where nutrients are continuously produced and made available to plants. So, the process begins with the wood itself. Not every type is suitable, you know. Hardwoods and partially decomposed logs are best since they break down slowly and feed the soil over the years. Freshly cut wood with strong resins should be avoided as it can actually interfere with plant growth during decomposition. I started by laying down a base of thick logs directly in the bottom of the raised bed. On top of that I added smaller branches and twigs, filling the gaps to create a stable foundation. Next came a layer of compost and rich organic material, just to make sure the wood was well covered. Finally I topped everything off with a thick layer of high-quality garden soil. A helpful guideline for hydration at this stage is to soak the wood thoroughly before covering it. For a standard raised bed measuring 4 feet by 8 feet, I used approximately 12 gallons of water to saturate the base layer of logs and branches. This ensures the wood is primed to act as a water reservoir from the very beginning. The layering process is simple, but it requires attention. One common mistake is leaving too much airspace between the logs, which can cause the bed to sink unevenly. Another is skipping the compost layer, which jumpstarts microbial activity and speeds up the soil building process. The difference in my garden became clear within the first season. Where I once watered every other day, I found myself watering far less often. Even during stretches of dry weather, the soil remained moist deep down. This reduced water stress on my plants, which meant steadier growth and fewer issues with wilting. The nutrient benefits took longer to reveal themselves, but by the second season I noticed something remarkable. Crops that had previously demanded regular fertilizer now grew vigorously with minimal additions. Root vegetables developed more evenly, leafy greens stayed vibrant longer, and fruiting plants like tomatoes and peppers produced abundant harvests without exhausting the soil. Over time, the buried wood continued to break down, creating rich humus that improved soil structure. My beds no longer compacted as easily, making them easier to work with season after season. The wood also created microhabitats for beneficial fungi and insects, which further supported plant health. For me, burying wood in raised beds is about more than healthy plants. It's about adopting a sustainable approach to gardening that works with nature rather than against it. Every log and branch I used was repurposed yard waste that might otherwise have been burned or hauled away. Instead, it became the foundation for a thriving, low-maintenance growing system. This practice reminds us that the solutions to healthier gardens often lie in the natural cycles happening all around us. Trees fall, wood decays, and forests renew themselves without intervention. By borrowing this principle and applying it to raised beds, we step into that cycle and benefit from its long-term productivity. Burying wood isn't just a clever trick. It's a philosophy of resilience and resourcefulness. It turns garden waste into treasure and transforms ordinary beds into systems that practically take care of themselves. The secret beneath my raised beds isn't expensive fertilizer or a complicated soil mix, it's wood. By burying it, I created a system that retains water, builds nutrients, and supports plant growth in ways I couldn't have imagined before. What started as a simple idea has become the cornerstone of my gardening success. If you're looking to transform your raised beds, I encourage you to give this method a try. Start small, work with the materials you have, and watch as your soil grows richer and your plants thrive season after season. For more practical gardening insights and unique methods like this, make sure you subscribe to Soil and Crop Central and share this guide with fellow gardeners. Let's keep growing together.